Welcome to Grow My Etsy Shop podcast, the drips of knowledge you need to start growing.
Hey, welcome. So I just finished, it's the end of the month here, and I just finished up a growth program with a small group of people. I just want to give a shout out to that group. Super fun, good group, and I feel like it was one of those groups that I also learned a lot from. A lot of them were very successful in what they do, and so it was interesting to get to see their back office. They were very generous with the information they were sharing with the group, and yeah, I feel like I'm a better coach now because of that group. So shout out to you guys. You guys are great. All right, let's get into today's episode. Today I want to talk about, so what I've been doing is I have this waiting list essentially for growth, to enter the growth program. And what I've been doing is, like, I always go through the shops and look at them anyway. And I thought, well, I'm going to record myself going through the shops and then I'll send them these videos. And so even if they're not invited, they get at least a walkthrough of, at least any pointers I have along the way. And something that as I've been doing this, and it's helped me be more, I guess aware, because usually when I go through shops, I'm going through in my brain, it's like I'm just going 100 miles an hour. No. And this allows me to slow down and kind of like explain why I'm leaning a certain direction or whatever. And one of the things that I feel like I keep kind of repeating and talking about is keyword padding. And so I want to talk about that in today's episode. So let's start with, what is keyword padding? So keyword padding is when you essentially describe your product like you're playing the game Password, where you're like saying every word possible to hint at what your product is instead of describing what your product is. So for example, if it was like a light bulb, you would be like glass, electricity, Thomas Edison, light, but you're not actually saying the term, right? So not saying that when people keyword pad, they don't say the term, they just go into that secondary motion of just using these other keywords that aren't necessarily the most direct keywords. Because when you're trying to pad or fill an entire title up, you have to get creative. You kind of have to start throwing some stuff in there, and that can be really confusing for the algorithm. Let me share with you someone as I was going through, what I mentioned before, kind of going through people's shops or whatever. This is a real headline, and I want to read it to you. It is set of 4 acrylic bulldog napkin rings. So right off the bat, do we know what it is? Yep. It's a set of 4 acrylic bulldog napkin rings. But now listen to what the title is after. Bulldogs, table decor, place setting, dinner party, football, tailgate, acrylic, white, red. Whoa. So let me share with you, just last night in our growth program, I was going through some ad accounts, and somebody in their ad account sell scratch off maps. And Etsy used the term they used the term off and poster. So she had it in her title written scratch off poster. And Etsy took the term off and poster and was showing her ad to people searching for Ferris Bueller's Day Off poster, using the word off poster, scratch off poster, you see that? And then put it into Ferris Bueller's Day Off poster. This is a great insight into like how Etsy's algorithm is working. That it was able to take 2 words, off and poster, and be like, well, those words genuinely aren't put together. And so it was able to extract that and then be like, what are people searching off poster for? And then connect it. Now, if she did scratch off, comma, poster, you've separated those 2 keywords, poster and scratch off. And so now when someone is searching for these long-term keywords, they're falling short. So if your listing is showing like a football, tailgate, white, red, table decor, Etsy's having to figure out what on earth you are selling. For example, if somebody searches for the word football and your bulldog napkin rings show up, they're not going to buy unless you just happen to land someone in Georgia who is a Bulldogs fan and is a female who's looking for table decor and search for the word football. Though your product is connected to football, we don't want to be found under the keyword football. And if you were to run ads to this, you are giving Etsy full permission to show you under football. And we don't want that. Or under tailgate. We don't want that. So we want to be able to provide the fact that we are selling something that is for a football fan without falling under the keyword of this is a football item. And this product that I read to you Etsy would be really confused by it. I love the way it starts. It's a set of 4, it's Bulldog napkin rings. Perfect. Good job. We've described the product. The next stage is where you're going to start to lose it. Bulldog, table decor, place setting, dinner party, football, tailgate, white, red. That's where we need to be more focused with our keywords and using those keywords, but in a better way. So let me share with you, before we go into the better way, let me share with you why people still do this. It's because they see their competitors doing it. So we log on to Etsy and we look at what our competitors are doing and we go, oh man, they're doing this and they have 8,000 sales. I only have 8 sales. I'm going to start taking their keywords because apparently they've done the research, they know their keywords, and I'm going to start plugging in my keywords. No one's bashing the idea that those are keywords that can convert. We're just saying that it's laid out wrong. Now, before you say, well, Jared, my competitors, 8,000 sales, how are you telling me it's laid out wrong? I would say 9 out of 10 times I want you to look at when that store opened. If you see that store open with somewhere with a 1 as the third number or a 0 as the third number, it's going to instantly answer your question. In that like 14 to 17, I want to say. So 2014, 2017, everybody did their keywords like this. It was all very padded the way they did it. And it's because it's kind of how algorithms worked kind of in that early, I want to say like 2005 to 2015. Just like the big boy algorithms worked this way, which is like the way we did SEO was we padded keywords in what we were doing in hopes that the algorithm would show it to people. And that was the way the algorithm learned. It was like, give us as much keywords as possible so we can figure out what you're selling. Algorithms have gotten so much smarter since then. And they've realized that what they actually wanted, which was as much keywords as possible, ended up kind of biting them in the butt. For this example I just shared, someone's searching for football and in comes a Bulldog napkin holder. And they go, wait, this isn't great. And so as algorithms started to get smarter, the criteria of what SEO or Google wanted was like, hey, we need you to lay this out differently for us so that we can use our now smarter algorithms to truly find out what you're selling so that we don't show bad search results. You will notice Etsy's pretty good at their search stuff. Google is pretty good at their search stuff, meaning you can search something and it's pretty specific. Do you know why? Because that's where the bread and butter is. The better they can give you the results of what you're searching for, the higher conversion you're going to have. So imagine if every time you searched on Google, it took you a couple searches before you found your answer. How often would you actually Google things? You'd have to be pretty committed to get your answer. You'd have to be ready. You'd have to be in a spot to know it's going to take me a few rounds to do this before I get my answer. But because Google has mastered the ability for you to ask a question and an answer to instantly be there for you, it has become the world's #1 tool of information. And so Etsy has looked at their own platform and has said, how can we take a user who's searching for something and provide them the most relevant version of their search with diversity, with color diversity and price diversity, but still be specific of what they're looking for. So you'll notice most searches have different price ranges, they have different color options, they have different store options, and overall they're just trying to provide this different experience. And then there's usually sprinkled in something I call inspirational search, meaning like if I was to search for wood art, for example, it's going to show me like wood art, and then it might show me like a wood art that sits on a desk, and a wood art that hangs on a wall, and a wood art that you wear around your neck. They show you different versions so that you can be inspired of like, oh, I really like this, I'm going to go down this rabbit hole. And when you start to go down that rabbit hole, let's say I'd click on the one that hangs on a wall, then it's going to start handing me listings that, within like similar shops that are selling, you're going to start to see a lot of wood art that are hanging on the wall because it's now figured out, hey, this is the direction you're going of what you're doing. So that's when someone goes from a main keyword and then they take the main keyword and run you through an inspirational search and find out what it is that you're looking for. So the reason Etsy doesn't like you to do keyword padding in 2023 is because you're just going to confuse the algorithm of what it is. Imagine it's like playing password with the algorithm now. Light, glass, Thomas Edison, electricity. It's like, light bulb? But what if we said, this is what the product is? And I think that Bulldog was a great example of what a first line should be. It broke down what it was made out of, that it's a set, it's made out of 4, and it's Bulldog, and what it does, it's a napkin ring holder. But now you have all these other keywords. So what do we do with those? Well, this is where we go into the formula that I've spoken about in other podcasts, that essentially we lead with what is the product, and then in the middle, we hit what we sell as a whole. So is she selling football paraphernalia? Is she selling like football gear? No, it's not probably gear, but football table decor. Then let's place that right in the center. Football table decor is a much stronger keyword than table decor / football / tailgate. It's way more clear, and the algorithm's going to pick that up so much better. We saw that with the Ferris Bueller thing. The fact that it was able to say scratch off poster, and then it ran off Ferris Bueller's day off poster. It took the two words, and now, good thing about ads is that we can go in there and say to them, hey, stop showing us Ferris Bueller stuff. What an algorithm would do in your normal life, where you don't have the ability to just instantly tell it to stop searching, is it's going to show, for example, her poster when people search for Ferris Bueller day off posters, until it starts to learn. People don't click on it when I'm doing this, and then they stop showing it in that area and start putting it somewhere else. And then they'll learn, hey, people are actually clicking on it when I go this way. And if people are clicking on it and then buying it, they're like, oh my gosh, this is a perfect match. You move up in the algorithm. And that's how everything kind of works. And so your job as an Etsy seller is A, to provide a product that people want, but B, you need to properly tell what it is. So Formula 1, our first pipe is, and Chris, if you're listening, I give that shout out to you. He's the one that called the 3 pipes. Pipe 1 is we describe what our product is. And so that Bulldog is a perfect example of that being laid out. Our second is we tell them what we sell in our store. So if this is a category in her store, in fact, I'm going to pause and look to see if she did that section correct. Okay, I have paused, I've come back. So this is under the category of table settings in her store. So she has a lot of different options, holiday themes, all this kind of stuff in her table settings. So we are going to call this football table setting, because her main keyword is table setting, but we want to put the theme of what that is up front. So football is going to be in the front of that. Instead of breaking it into its own commas or its own brackets of football, we're going to put it with the table setting. So that way, we would way rather show up when someone searches for football table settings or football table decor than we would for the term football. And so football is where you're going to put in your tags. Football table settings is what you're going to put in the center of that listing. And then at the end of our listing is where we're going to sprinkle in some extra keywords in there, and we're going to tell who it's for. I think in her case, she could say something about the Georgia Bulldogs or whatever. I don't know the team, but the Georgia Bulldogs, we'll assume that they're called napkin ring. And then you can say for, and that's when you can say something along the lines of like Georgia or whatever I think red and white are their colors. I think that's why she put in there. So something along the lines of like the red and white, or the fans of the team, or fans of football for. That's who you're going to say that who that is for. And so when you have it in those 3 pipes or that 3 formula, that's what's going to properly feed the algorithm correct. This is something I've gotten even better at as I've been working in ad accounts of people in my growth program. As I've been looking at, I've been able to see so much data from different accounts and see how the algorithm is picking stuff up. So we have I've had some people spend up to $250 a day in their ads. And the amount of data that they're getting from that has been insane. And to be able to go through and see that, I've learned even more the importance of avoiding keyword padding. So there's going to be another question that you're probably wanting to ask. What if I'm doing it, meaning I'm probably a victim of, I shouldn't say a victim, I'm probably a person who does keyword padding, but it's kind of working. Here's my advice. Don't mess with it. Because if it's working, it means Etsy has figured it out. Sure, you might have made it more difficult, or sure, you're doing something that they've asked you not to do, but they figured it out. ultimately, the golden egg of Etsy is when they find a buyer. When someone is buying your product, that's the most data that they can receive, because they're able to see that you showed up in a search. They're able to see that somebody clicked through, meaning that when they provide other options, you were the winner and they clicked through to you. And then of all the other options, they gave you their money. That's a great indicator to them that they hit a home run in matching keywords up. So if you're keyword padded and Etsy was putting you under football and putting you under Ferris Bueller's Day Off and putting you under a tailgate party, and then they put you under a napkin ring and all of a sudden it worked, Etsy's going to, like somebody buys from you, Etsy's going to be like, okay, napkin ring. And they're going to start to funnel more that direction and ultimately figure it out that you are a napkin ring and then Bulldog or whatever it may be. So in your case, if you're doing keyword padding and you're seeing sales from your keyword padding, it's like, just leave them be. Don't go and change them today, right now. Etsy's figured it out. Congratulations. I would just advise going forward that you do better with your SEO and kind of trying to lay it out in more of a 3-sectioned. And so the first section describing what your product is, the second section being more about what your shop sells as a whole or the category that product is in, and then some secondary keywords followed with who it's for. And if you lay it out more this way, you're going to find that it reads so much better from a human standpoint. The humans are going to be able to, the people, us, are going to be able to read it and like know what they're buying. What we tend to do when we click on listings is like, obviously we look at listing pictures and we read the titles before we read descriptions, before all that kind of stuff. And so if it's all keyword padded, then it's the same thing. Like, why am I reading tailgate when I'm looking at a napkin ring? This doesn't make sense to me. But if it's for football fans, then I'm like, oh, this is for me. I'm a football fan. Or for Bulldog fans, I'm a Bulldogs fan. This is going to work for me. So that's why we want to lay out that way. Another big question I get when I am speaking about this with people and talking about keyword padding and trying to kind of move away from that process is double up on keywords. So when I explain that formula, what else, people will often ask, well, I've heard you're not supposed to use the same keyword twice. I've heard you're supposed to just use different keywords, and that's kind of why they feel like their listings may look a little patty, because they're trying to use different words to describe one product. So let me answer that. There is nothing wrong with using a strong keyword more than once in your title. In fact, it's probably best practice. Because unless your product has lots of different ways that are high volume keywords to describe your product, you're going to, by nature, in multiple, if you have 20 listings in your store, you're going to be using the same keywords in a lot of these listings. So I try to avoid my listings looking very similar. I try to move keywords around and start with certain things and end with certain things, just to give the algorithm different versions of where that keyword can land. But in a single listing, let's go back to our Bulldog example here. I have it open, so I'm going to look at it as we go. So we have table decor, place setting, dinner party, football tailgate, white and red. Okay, so these are all the keywords that are being put into this listing. But the $1 million question is, what is this actual listing? It's a napkin ring. It's actually a Bulldog napkin ring. So saying the word Bulldog napkin ring at the top of your listing and at the bottom of your listing is actually going to help the algorithm figure out what it is, because there's so many keywords found in this that which keyword has more weight. Now, Etsy has said that the closer something is, that like first 7 words or whatever has a little bit more weight than the last couple words in your listing. So that's worth noting. Outside of that, how do we know the difference between, for example, dinner party and football? How does Etsy know which keyword is actually more important or better describes your product? If they see it more than once. So if it says Bulldog napkin ring, if you have acrylic Bulldog napkin ring, and then you share that it's table decor for, or what was the thing? I can't remember what her category was. It wasn't table decor. It was something else. I can't remember. But you have napkin ring table decor, for example. We've used the word napkin ring now 2 times. One, Bulldog napkin ring. The other one is table decor napkin ring. What is the algorithm going to learn? That this is a napkin ring. we're also giving it different versions of keywords. In front of that, it's a bulldog one or it's a table decor one, which both describe the product, but the two main keywords stay the same: napkin, ring. Now the algorithm has a better understanding that this is truly a napkin ring, because you're not going to say the word napkin ring several times unless it's a napkin ring. This helps the algorithm learn. So this can go with all of your products. I don't want you to have any fear of saying the same thing twice. Now that doesn't mean all your listings you're going to go through today and make sure you say the same keyword twice. But I do want you to think to yourself, what is this product? And that is your, I don't want to say get out of free jail card, but it's essentially your, you have permission, that's a good way to say it, to be able to use that keyword in more than one time in a listing. Because you're going to help the algorithm weight is what the word is. You're going to help it give it more weight so that it knows what's important and is able to better pull you up in searches in that way. Okay, hopefully this has been helpful for you. I know that keyword padding, you see it all over Etsy and you're like, what am I supposed to do? The truth is Etsy has said, we don't love it. Most algorithms that I know of have said, stop. It doesn't help us in our search. And so laying your searches out so that A, can be better for humans, but B, also that the algorithm can figure out what you're selling in a more quick way is going to really help you grow and develop your store and your brand on Etsy. If you've enjoyed this episode, go ahead and leave a review. I haven't actually had a review in a long time, and so I do check. You know what? I'm going to embarrass myself here. Like maybe every other day, I kind of just like log in and because I don't have an iPhone. Now you may have lost respect for me, but I never had an iPhone. I've never owned a Mac, and so I've been a PC guy. I've been a Samsung guy, an Android guy. Since the beginning of time, I've always kind of been into phones. I always have the coolest phones, but I never got into Apple. So Apple Podcast is the only thing that leaves reviews, and so I'll go on my desktop and be like, grow my Etsy shop podcast, Apple, and I look and I'm like, oh, no enough to review. So it's just something keeps me motivated, I guess is a good way to say it. So appreciate you nonetheless. If you want to sign up, like I said, I've been walking through stores and kind of doing these videos. Go to growmyetsyshop.com / what is it? Growth program. Nope. Maybe. I'll put a link in the description. All right. I'll see you guys next week. Actually, next week, mi esposa will be back. So she's going to be doing at the start of the month, and she's going to be talking about something. The model is what she said. So whatever that is, we'll see. All right. Catch you guys, I guess, in 2 weeks. Bye.